of waves, but then we cannot say that all those waves are different from one another or is separated from the sea, right? But at the same time, we cannot also say that it is the same wave that reached the shore, right? That reached the shore. Another example he also gives is the candle, right? So a candle lights another candle and another candle, right? But then we cannot also say that all the lights, all the flames are same because it is different candle. But at the same time, we cannot also say that all the flames are different because it is the same flame that has flamed the rest of the candle. So in that way, he was trying to explain the the soul, you know. So it is not exactly the same soul, but it is the consciousness that has been carried forward, and it is reborn, and it is that consciousness that reaps, you know, the fruit of the karma. So it is a little complicated, but being he being omitting all the metaphysical questions, these are some of the struggles where the Buddhists always felt. Uh, then in the latter course, Hinayana and Mahayana is considered to be the greater vehicle and Hinayana as the smaller vehicle. Both these sects were divided, and both this sect has its own differences. You know, as being inferior and superior, those concepts has always been attached with these two sects. But later on, what happens among the Hinayana, there were many sects again in Hinayana, but out of that, Theravada sect has survived until date, and this Theravada is taking up the yoke of the Hinayana sect. And Mahayana, as it is surviving in various parts of the country. Like in the Hinayana, you will find basically in Sri Lanka, Burma, then Thailand, then Cambodia, Nepal, Japan, China, you will find. But then Mahayana also you can find in some of these places also. So I'll give you all these notes because these are all historical. So I don't want to go very much in depth. The notes are there. I think it is very easy and you will be able to understand it. Okay, but I want you to look into the syllabus, and if there is any area where you find it difficult, then you can always raise question at the end. Next, Jainism. Jainism also like its history is little complicated because usually we have always understood Mahavira to be the founder of Jainism, but Jainas never accepted Mahavira as the founder of Jainism, right? Mahavira is considered to be the 24th Tirthankaras, okay? 24th Tirthankaras. Oh, just a minute. Before we go into Jainism, one area which I have missed out in Buddhism, which is not exactly there in the syllabus, but many a times this question has come in the exam. Like, see, Gautama Buddha's teaching, interestingly, his teaching starts with negation, negative. It's very negative. It's not there is suffering. The first noble truth is there is suffering as long as you live in this world. It is not only pessimistic, but it is also very, very negative, isn't it? So how is this unique thought developed in Gautama Buddha, right? In Gautama Buddha, you know. So what is the very foundation? So the very foundation is his own experiences, you know, his 4 scenes that he had experienced when he was young. Okay, the first is like he met an old gray man. I think all of you must know that. So the 4 scenes where he first of all is he met an very old, aged, you know, with worn out clothes. He was coming out from a shattered hat. So he met the person. So Gautama Buddha, Siddhartha, you know, being from a royal family, he was completely unknown to the world of pain, suffering, old age, and all this. You know, he was completely unknown. He was brought up in that fortified, walls of love and care and all this. So happiness is only what he has experienced. So when he was on a city ride, he saw this and he was very much disturbed when he saw this old rugged man. Okay, so that disturbed his mind. The second sight was he saw a sick man groaning in pain. So he realized about the pain. That was the first time it seems he has experienced a scene of a man in such a pain. Okay, then the third sight was he saw a corpse, that body being carried on the shoulder, and then behind him women, people, the love and dear ones, were crying and mourning, behind the dead body. So that was another great another painful experience that he had, and the reality of death that he has seen and experienced, and the pain, the sorrow that people go through. So these are the three experiences that he had. And the fourth experience that was an eye-opener for him was that he saw an old mendicant. He was old, and he was poor, he was old, but his face was very much enlightened and lighted, with a smile. So an old mendicant with his robe. He saw him, and he could understand that yes, all these are part of life: pain, suffering, death, old age. These are all part of life. All these are coming under suffering, are part of life. But however, there is a hope. There is a possibility for us to overcome this suffering. So this is what he realized, and he decided to live a life of mendicant. He live a life of asceticism. That is what he desired. And knowing his desire, his parents were very much disturbed, and he was married off. But after the child was born, he left the palace and then lived a life of mendicant in search of truth. And that's how his whole teaching of Four Noble Truths seems to have developed. Okay, so there are also times where the questions are being raised based on this, his own experiences, out of which his teaching has been developed. I hope it is clear. Yes, now coming to Jainism. Yeah.
Madam, can you give a brief outlook of the Buddhist scriptures?
Okay. It's a Ganapitaka. I don't know whether I have it on my notes or not. Buddhist scripture. Is it there in the syllabus? Yes, it is there.
Yes, ma'am.
I think, I have not included, I guess, in my notes. When I send it to you, definitely I will classify it and send it to you.
Okay,
is it okay? Okay. There is some, I don't have it with me in this computer, but at home I am having it. So it is whole classification of the Buddhist scripture. So the minor details even I have forgotten. So instead of giving you some wrong informations, a small note is there which I will give you. If you read it, I think it won't be difficult for you.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Now, shall we proceed to Jainism? Just 1 minute. Sometimes this Pratitya Samutpada also comes as short notes. For short notes, Pratitya Samutpadas are very it's often reflected, and then the Four Noble Truths that includes the Eightfold Path, that also comes many times as teachings of Buddhism, and and its ethical teaching, you know, in relation to the present day corruptions sometimes. Okay, so in that line, if you can go through it. Next, the Jainism, as I have been discussing, you know, the Jainism, you know, the Mahavira, Jainas do not consider Mahavira to be the founder of Jainism. Rather, the Mahavira is the 24th Tirthankaras, or Tirthankaras means the one who have already conquered the world, you know, the one who have already reached the other shore, you know, one who have already reached the other shore, who have already reached the enlightenment, and they are the examples for the rest of the humanity to follow the path, to follow their path, and so that they can also reach the other shore. That means they can also reach the Nirvana. So that is what Tirthankara is all about. So before Mahavira, they were already 23 Tirthankaras, and beginning with Rasavadeva. Now, beginning from Rasavadeva, actually some teachings, you know, teachings of those 24 or 23 Tirthankaras, you know, beginning with Rasavadeva, all the teachings of the 23 Tirthankaras were being what you call compiled or organized and renovated. Okay, it was being organized and renovated by Mahavira. Okay, so Jainas considered Mahavira more as an organizer and a renovator of the Jaina teachings. All right, so so in that way, okay. Okay, I think that is clear when it comes to Mahavira. So Mahavira was somewhere in 599 BCE. Okay, they so Tirthankaras are, so therefore I hope you are clear with the meaning of who the Tirthankaras are. In one word, we can say that Tirthankaras are the like fort makers, you know, or those who have followed a particular path and who have reached this state of enlightenment. And we humanities are to follow their path so that we can also reach the enlightenment. Therefore, they are also known as fort maker, Fordmakers, fort makers. So Mahavira was born somewhere in 599 BCE. So you can imagine the Rasavadeva, beginning from Rasavadeva, how it dates back, you know. So so I do not know how to count back the time, but that was way back. Okay, now when it comes to Jaina's teaching, you know, like besides the ethical teachings, Jaina's teaching of Syadvada is also very, very important, right? Jaina's Syadvada theory is very important, like for Syadvada theory, which is also known as theory of relativism or theory of judgment. Theory of relativism. That means every judgment is relative. We should, right? Every judgment is relative. It is not absolute, but it is relative. Okay, that is what Syadvada theory holds on to. In other words, I think if I give you one example, I think it will be more clear. For example, like I think it is very common in the Tinkle comic, those stories. Like five blind men trying to describe an elephant. Okay, five blind men trying to describe an elephant from their own experiences. For like one blind man came and happened to touch the legs of the elephant, and he began to describe elephant as, oh, the elephant is just like a big pillar, right? Big pillar. And as per his experience, his definition of elephant is also not wrong, but it's partially true. It's partially true, but it's not fully true. And at the same time, it is not wrong also. Another blind man came and touched the ears of an elephant and says that, oh, elephant is just like a huge fan. Another blind man came and seems to touch the body of the elephant and says that elephant is just like a huge wall. So all this blind man description of elephant is partially true, but it's not absolute truth, right? But it is not wrong too, or it is not absolutely true, right? So that is the reason, as per the Syed-Vada theory, judgment is relative. Nothing is absolute. Therefore, it is not good on our part to, to give an absolute judgment or to make any truth claims that I am the only one who is right. You are wrong. So that kind of absolute knowledge can be relative. We should give room for others also. And therefore, all judgment as per Jaina Syed-Vada theory, all judgment is relative, conditional, and limited. Okay. All judgment is relative, conditional, and limited. And therefore, in every judgment, they use the word siyat. Siyat means relatively speaking, or maybe, or somehow, maybe, somehow, or relatively speaking, so and so, and then you give your own view. Relatively speaking, this is my view, this is what it is, or somehow this is this, or maybe it is this. So when you use the word maybe or somehow or relatively speaking, you are giving room for others' view also, right? So that is what Syed-Vada theory is all about. And as per the Syed-Vada theory, Jaina has used some logical tools, in 7 forms, which is known as the 7 forms of judgment. All right, 7 forms of judgment. That is Syat Asti. That means somehow S is P. Okay, somehow S is P. Right? Somehow S is P. That means the jug is in the room. The jug is in the room in a particular condition, in a particular circumstance or a situation. Right? Then next is Syat Nasti. That means somehow S is not P. Somehow, okay, somehow the jug is not black. That means it is not black at a particular time or at a particular space or under a certain condition. If under certain condition, the jug may look different.
Ma'am, can you
share the
screen?
Third is, yeah. Yes, I think I'm sharing the screen actually.
There is nothing displayed on the screen.
No.
Okay. What is this? I think my network is giving a little problem. Can you hear me actually?
Yes, we can hear you.
Voice is breaking frequently, so it's difficult to understand few terms.
Exactly. We are not able to get the words.
Yeah, I think my network is creating some problem today. Shall I rejoin again? I will leave and rejoin again.
Now the screen is shared.
Now can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. All right. So this is so the third is Syat Asticha Nasticha. That is as is and also is not. So I better not explain all this because the explanation is also described clearly in the notes. Example, only something I think I will try to. Okay. Okay. I think this will be easy for. I will not explain much. It's very clear. Just go through it, and then because every line, if I explain, I'll be wasting a lot of time. So whatever it is, it comes as a short note or sometimes as a reflective question in a sense of truth claims, you know, in the sense of truth claims, like be it Christian, Hindu, or Islam, or whatever religions, we all have a certain amount of exclusivism, right? Certain amount of exclusivism, and that comes because of our loyalty towards our faith. Our commitment towards our faith, that is understandable. But the thing is that many a times this exclusivism or exclusiveness, you know, towards our religious community, many a times it takes the shape of a fanaticism, and that is where problem lies. You know, when this exclusiveness it works in a very narrow form, you know, without a sense of openness towards other faiths, then the problem comes, right? And then the problem of truth claims. Me and today, among the religious community, the whole problem is with me and my religion. You know, is the only truth, is the only this one. You know, so where what happens? You don't leave any room. Your faith, your conviction is there in its own place. But when you are completely exclusive without a sense of openness towards others, you know, in a prejudiced, narrow-minded thoughts, then what happens? A kind of a fanatic type of views or attitudes develop towards other faiths, right? So such kind of truth claims and exclusiveness is something which Syatwada negates, right? And in our context today, where we are faced with so much of religious tensions and hatreds, you know, and today we have also witnessed, not only today, since long time back in India, we have witnessed how the politicians, our own leaders, political leaders, have also used the religious sentiments in order to meet their own needs as vote banks, isn't it, right? So how they have used the religious sentiments in order to mobilize the people, and this kind of issues have really disturbed the whole you know, coexistence of the community, Indian community, and even till date we have seen it, and we are experiencing it. All right, so in that kind of context, you know, Syatwada, the significance or implication of Syatwada theory, you know, if you can think and try to, you know, read this Syatwada theory from that perspective and challenge the context, it would be very, very helpful for you, even for your especially for your exams. Okay. Then is it okay with Buddhism, Jainism? Any questions? And Jaina's doctrines. I have put under teachings in a simple form. Okay, in a simple form, let me just explain a little bit. For Jainas, unlike Buddha, Jainas seems to have certain metaphysical queries are being made. Okay, are being made. Now, unlike the Christians, unlike the Christians, Jainas believe that the universe is uncreated. It was never created. Okay, like for Christians, we believe in ex nihilo, isn't it? God created. There is a creator, and he created this world out of nothing. Right? Now, for Jainas, the universe is uncreated. And we all know the Jainas don't believe in such kind of an existence of a creator God. And this is one reason why Jainas do not believe in a creator God. When the world or the universe is uncreated, it has been there since eternally. Then what is there is no room for the concept of a creator God, isn't it, in their philosophy? Now the question is how the universe was created that. I mean, how it is uncreated, but then how the universe in all its differences came into form. So to these, they have explained this concept, or the belief that there is two independent eternal categories, right? Two independent and eternal categories. It has been there, since from the very beginning. That is Jiva and Ajiva. Jiva is the conscious spirit, or we call it as soul, and Ajiva is the unconscious or non-spirit. All right. So in other words, Ajiva can also be considered as matter. Okay, so these are the two eternal categories that has been eternally being existing or there. Now, when it comes to Jiva, we all know Jiva, conscious, that is spirit, soul, and every living thing has a life, has a soul, Atman, right? Now, Jiva, again, is classified into two types. That is bonded souls and the liberated souls. The bonded souls are the ones who are bonded into this cycle of birth and rebirth. And the liberated souls are the ones who have already been, have already the emancipated souls, right? For example, the Mahavira and Arhats and all those people. All those were the Tirthankaras, all those were the liberated souls. So, and these liberated and bonded souls are described in their swastika. All the bonded souls are born in 4 states of existence, right? 4 states of existence or gatis, right? In the human gatis, angel gatis, then hell being gatis, as well as 4 sense, 3 sense animal, that state. So in these 4 states, so these are considered to be the states 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 4s are considered to be the 4 gatis, 4 states of life. The bonded souls will be born according to one's karma, exhaustion, and accumulation of karmas. Okay, then this hand is the sign of ahimsa, which Jainas strongly follow. Ahimsa not only in action but in words, deeds, and in speech. And that is also one of the reasons why they wear that mask on their mouth, which not only the hampering the microorganisms while talking, but at the same time control of speech so that it will not hurt other sentiments. Then here these petals are 24 Tirthankaras, are the signs of these little petals are 24 in number, and these are the 24 Tirthankaras. Then these 3 dots, a bonded soul is born, and if you follow the Triratna correctly and wholeheartedly, then you can be in the abode of the, you can be liberated. So this crescent moon, the sign of this crescent moon is the sign of the, is the abode of the household. So this is basically the teaching of Jainas. Yes, and another is the Ajiva. Okay. Ajiva in the notes, I have not explained much because since we are not dealing with philosophy, in philosophy subject, if you happen to take, you will get everything in detail. Now, Ajiva is basically matter, you know, matter, or in other words, Pudgala. In Pali language, it is called Pudgala, and matter. And matter is, according to Jainas, matter is both in subtle and the gross form. Now, in the gross form are the 5 elements, right? Earth, four elements of nature, that is earth, water, fire, and air. So these are the gross form of Ajiva, of matter. And subtle forms are the karmas. Karma, you know, are action. Karmas that is accumulated in us, and karmas that is exhausted in us by doing good works, by doing the ethical path, by following the ethical path taught by the Tirthankaras. All right, or Triratna, let me put it, you know, in their language. So depending upon the exhaustion and the accumulation of karmas, a person is either bonded or liberated. Okay, a soul is bounded or liberated. So through somehow with the combination or coming together of Jiva and Ajiva, everything in the world in all its differences are being have come into existence. It's not created, but have come into existence, or it has evolved. That is what Jainas believe. All right. I hope to hear it's clear. Any question?
Ma'am, figure I can explain.
Pardon?
Figure I can explain.
I'm not able to understand. I don't know. If you can text me, maybe I will be able to understand. I think the network is
Hello,
breaking.
madam.
Yes.
That figure of Jainism, can you please explain again?
Just 1 minute, 1 second, okay? 1 second. Okay. Okay. Please come again with your question.
Ma'am, please, can you please explain that Jainism figure again?
Or the symbol.
Yeah, symbol.
Okay, you want me to share the screen? Yeah, because if it is symbol, if I don't share the screen, you will not know. No? Okay, this figure. This is the figure that you were talking about?
Yes.
Ma'am, yeah.
Yes. See, the gatis means state of human life. human life in a sense, human life not of all the jivas, but the bonded souls. Okay, sorry, not human life, but different states of souls. Sorry, not human life, but different states of life or souls. Okay, so that is known as gatis. That is human beings, of human beings as state of heavenly beings, state of triyankas. That means animals like lion, elephant, birds, plant, bugs, and all those. Then states of infernal being, that means hell beings. I don't know what is wrong. Okay. Okay, so these are the 4 gatis a soul is born into depending upon the accumulation and the exhaustion of one's karma. Karma means action. All right. Now, these 4 gatis that is here, these 4 gatis are identified in this swastika. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So on this swastika implies the 4 states of bonded souls. Okay. Now, this hand symbolizes their belief, strong belief in ahimsa. Ahimsa in words, action, sentiments, and all those. All right. And this chakra, wheel, this wheel has 24 rose petals. Right? This wheel has 24 rose petals, which symbolizes, or it has the picture of the 24, or symbolizes the 24 Tirthankaras or fort makers. All right. Now, these 3 dots symbolizes the 3 ratna. 3 ratnas are the right faith, right conduct, and right even I'm
Right action.
right yes, right action. No.
Right knowledge.
Right knowledge, samyak jnana, samyak charitra, and samyak darshana. So right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. It is very simple, but it has its own way of circulating. If there is no faith, you need to have faith upon the teachings of the Tirthankaras. And with that faith, you will develop the knowledge, samyak jnana, right? You will develop the knowledge of truths, right? And this knowledge should not just confine there. It should be visible in your conducts. It should be visible in your life. So that the 3 jivas, and all these bonded souls, if you follow these 3 ratna, as well as all the ethical paths that been taught by the Tirthankaras, if believe, if you have faith, then what happens? You will be, your soul will be liberated. And this crescent moon symbol liberated souls. Liberated souls. Abode means home of the liberated souls. Is it okay now?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, madam, it's okay. Can you please explain brief in what's the reason to decline Buddhism in South Asia?
Decline of Buddhism in South Asia. See, there are various reasons I feel if we look into the history, although I may not, at this time, to be very honest, I may not be able to give you the concrete, what do you call, reasons of this. I think I will have to make a little more research in this area of its expansion. That is understood, isn't it? Buddhism with see, let me start with expansion now. Then we will go into decline. See, when it comes to expansion, see, see, there were many Shramana movements during 500 BCE, right? 500 BC or 600 to 500 BCE. There were many Shramana movements that developed, and some of the historians even goes up to saying that there were around 500 different Shramana movements, and among that 500 Shramana movements, Buddhism and Jainism were also one among them. That is what some of the scholars says, right? But all those did not survive the time, right? I do not know exactly what is the reason, but it did not survive. Now, Buddhism survived, Jainism survived more. Buddhism, why it survived, I could see that. See, see, Buddhism was struggling even in India, right? Although it was born in India, Buddhism was also struggling, or it was only in small pockets, you know, in India. Somehow, after Ashoka converted himself or embraced Buddhism after the war of Kalinga, right? At Kalinga.
Kaling.
No, after Ashoka. So after his conversion, he made it a point that you know, he had this tremendous experience, you know, when he saw the dead bodies and everything and the bloodshed, and then he then embraced Buddhism, and he became a strong profounder of ahimsa, right? And he began to send out missionaries to Buddhist missionaries or monks to various parts of not only India but outside India. All right, and that's how Buddhism became quite popular. And at the same time, he also wrote an edict, right, which he says that it is Ashoka's edict, you know, but then it is so much similar with the teachings of Buddha, right? So you will see a lot of similarity, you know, very much based on Buddha's teaching. So in that way, you know, it expanded to various parts of the country as well as various parts of the world. And that's how it spread with a missionary zeal, you know, not necessarily by hook or crook, influences of the monks, but declined. But in the in the long run, like for example in Assam, the Buddhists that was very, very cultic. Okay. I don't know. My network is giving little problem. I'm just getting disconnected time and again. Somehow, see the Buddhist teaching that went down to Assam was quite cultic. Buddhism, you know, unlike the teachings of Buddha, it was you know, it was little bit of it was not much of a difference with the rest of the Hindus, you know, and that is also one of the reasons why it did not survive much in Assam also. Of course, in Arunachal Pradesh and all those, you will see quite popular, and maybe it is also conditioned by the socio-cultural context. You know, the faith is also very much conditioned by the socio-cultural condition. You know, for example, I'm just giving one example. Okay, see, I am not giving you a definite answer. It is my assumptions. I think for this, I will have to make it possible. When I send you the notes, I will try to send a little bit of it in the notes, just the historical part. All right. we are Baptist. I am a Baptist Christian. So Baptist way of doing things, church organization and way of our practice. Yes, belief is same. We believe in Christ. It is everywhere. It's all the same. But the church organization, the way of doing things, a little different from the Baptist churches in other parts of India. Say in West Bengal, the way they do things is a little different. Of course, quite a lot of things are like church organization, like pastor, naming of the pastorate is same, but the thing, some of the concepts and the things that the way we do things work out little different. So it is also depending on the social condition of the particular place. And that is also one of the reasons, I think, when this Buddhism was divided into various sects, okay, even in Hinayana also, there are so many sects in Hinayana that was slowly divided, it came out. And that is, see, when a particular sect is divided into smaller sects, it cannot survive, the time, it slowly vanishes. And the same thing happened. The strongest is the Theravada that survived, and till now it is surviving, right? But there was a point of time indeed that it declined in many parts of the world. Okay, at the same time, especially in India, Buddhism was strongly being challenged by so many missionaries, what you call, like Arya Samaj, when in Hinduism also, when sectarians group developed, when Bhakti movement came up. See, when Buddhism, when it developed against the Brahmanical culture. And in the later Hinduism, the Bhakti movements in 19 Ramanuja was in 11th century. Ramanuja, Shankara, Bhakti saints, Shankara, Ramanuja, that we have learned the philosophy. These were the Bhakti saints. They developed in 10th to 11th century. But they were confined only in the southern region. Okay, in the northern region it was untouched. But slowly in 1500s, it mushroomed, in all the northeastern or northern parts of India, under various saints like Guru Nanak, Tulsidas, and Ramdev, Mirabai. So many saints developed in all the parts of India, and they began to condemn, against the Brahmanical culture, and they began to speak for the marginalized people, for gender equality, for social equality, against all the social evils. They began to speak and voice out. During that time also, these were also one of the reasons. And later on again, you will see Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj coming into form, and with the missionary zeal, they were also spreading out. So in the due course of time, what happens? Buddhism also, I think, encountered a setback with all this religious sect and the movements that has developed. So slowly, what happens? Buddhism, declined. But again, after a certain period of time, again it flourished, and it is still flourishing in many of the countries, right? It is just that it is not completely declined. There was a point of time where it declined, when it has to come across so many challenges from so many religious communities, right? In Hinduism itself now, the Bhakti movements, are trying to reawaken, bring change in their own religious community, right? In their own religious community, they are trying to bring change. So since the Upanishadic time, in the philosophy and philosophy schools, in their own religious community, as a Hindu itself, they were trying to bring changes, and advocating equality, because Buddhism was against caste system, advocating equality. gender equality, right? Against ritualism and advocating this one. So all these elements you will find in Indian philosophical schools. All these elements are being picked up by the Bhakti movements within Hinduism itself. So I think these are one reasons why we can see decline of Buddhism, particularly in India. But however, during that time, it was flourishing in other parts of the world.
Ma'am, one question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, is there one question? Ma'am, one question from my side. Ma'am, is there any Zoroastrian or Sikhism in our syllabus?
Zoroastrianism we don't include, but Sikhism is there.
Okay, ma'am.
We have to pick up Islam and Sikhism still. Two more to cover up, and we have 1.5 hours. I think that will suffice. I hope that is okay so far. Shall we pick up Islam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. From Islam also, like 4 foundations of Islam and the 5 pillars of Islam are quite important, and Sharia, Islamic law, you can expect in the short notes. Yeah. But anyway, you go through your question paper and then previous question paper, and then you can also difficult to because this is more a kind of a history, or that means a story, so it is not difficult in any way. Anyway, I think I will just omit this pre-Islamic Arabia. Okay, pre-Islamic Arabia, it is just talking about the descriptions of the country where where Prophet Muhammad, the place where Prophet Muhammad was born, about the description of the country and about the culture, about the people. You know, 2 types of people were dominant during that time, like Bedouins. Bedouins were the Roman shepherds, or in other words, they were little warriors type, you know, who live basically on looting. They did not settle life, but they had the system of sheikh, you know. Those were quite rich, and they were more like a tribal, you know, and a little bit of barbarian. That is what the city people considers. There were also another group of people. They were the Makkans. I mean, the city people. The Makkah and Medina. They were the 2 flourishing cities during that time. And then, those were the city people. And Bedouins were the original people. That's what they recognize. They live basically on looting and all, but slowly as Arabia explored this oil, you know, the wealth of the oil, completely changed whole lifestyle of the Bedouins, and they today are the one of the richest now, and their whole patient has changed from a wanderer and looting robbers to an oil-rich people. And the Makkans are the city people. They were, you know, people from other countries, because since these are the commercial centers, you know, they have a kind of a mixed kind of culture. And among them, Prophet Muhammad belongs to the Quraysh tribe. And Kaaba, the religious pilgrimage place, is also there in Makkah. So Makkah is considered to be a holy city for every Arabs. And these people, you know, always comes to Kaaba to pay their homage. And religious life also, if you see the religious of before Prophet Muhammad, before the coming on or pre-Islamic Arabia, you will see that besides the Kaaba, no, besides the Kaaba, they were also nature worshippers. Eyes carved by the nature, wind, the storm, in a unique way, and these also were being worshipped by this Arabian people. And it is said that around 300 stones were there inside the Kaaba, along with the black stone, which seems to have been brought down from heaven by Abraham. Along with the black stone, there were 300 stones which the Arabians used to worship. But however, after Prophet Muhammad, with its teaching of Islam, after he took over, he destroyed all these stones, and only the black stone is left at Kaaba now. So, and they also believe in jinn, demons, kahin, that means divinations, soothsayers. So these are some of the general practices that you will find among the Bedouins, especially during that time. However, the term Allah and the concept of Allah was not unknown to the Arabian minds, it seems. During that time, interestingly, in the midst of all this, some of the Arabs began to believe in Allah, whom they consider to be the greatest among them, who is the Lord of greatest among everyone, or every God, all the stone, all the tree, and all these demons, among them greatest is Allah. So this concept was not under Islam. So some of the scholars believe that it is this concept of Allah which Prophet Muhammad has further carried forward. This monotheistic concept of God is what Prophet Muhammad further carried on. So that is what some of the scholars believe, and the Jews are not unknown to them. Okay. All right. So shall I skip the life and work of Prophet Muhammad? Because the life and work of Prophet Muhammad is basically, okay. Just I will not go in detail, just an overview. All right. So let's see, Prophet Muhammad, if you look into his life history, it's very, very, what do you call, not exactly pathetic, but he did not have an easy life. At a very early age, his parents expired, and then he was looked after by this paternal uncle, and he also did not survive, and ultimately he was looked after by his maternal uncle Abu Talib. Now, in one plus point was Abu Talib was quite influential during that time, and he seems to have been a businessman. So this Abu Talib, Prophet Muhammad accompanied his uncle on all his business tour. So during that time, the businesses were like in caravans, isn't it? Caravans was very popular during that time. So in such a journey, in such one of the business journey in caravan, he happened to meet Khadija, his first wife. Okay, his first wife. Now Khadija was a widow, right? And then Khadija seems to be a businesswoman again. Now, how he inherited and how she became a businesswoman, we do not know. But however, Khadija, Prophet Muhammad married Khadija, and now after marriage, Prophet Muhammad no longer has that economic insecurity, isn't it? He had economic security, then stable. He is now fully stable. Then in this married life only, Prophet Muhammad has gone through some experience, of trends, and he seems to have some revelations during that time. So those revelations are what Quran is all about. Okay, so there were certain period of time where he had revelation. There was certain period of time where he did not have revelations. So all those are important part of the Islamic calendar, right? Until now they maintain and they consider it as sacred. So whatever it is, whatever revelations Prophet Muhammad received during that time comprises the Quran. Okay, now so Quran is the direct revelations of God to Prophet Muhammad. So it is considered to be the most holy scripture, and the other scriptures are all in correspondence with the Quran, with the teachings of the Quran. Okay, now after these revelations, when Prophet Muhammad shared it with Khadija could realize that it is not as simple as that, and it is something of a prophetic call from God. And so Khadija encouraged him, as well as his friend Abu Bakr also encouraged Prophet Muhammad to bring it to the people. And accordingly, after much convincing, he brought it to the people. But however, in his own place, he was not accepted, and he was from Makkah. Right, he was from Makkah, from that Quraysh tribe, but he was not accepted, and he was not persecuted. His first disciples were his best friend Abu Bakr, Khadija, his wife, and his slaves. One of his slaves, Ziyad, and one of his cousins too. So these are the first disciples, but slowly he also earned a couple of disciples. But in Makkah, he was being ridiculed, and then his teachings was being condemned. So quite a lot of his disciples have gone through persecution. However, he was being secured under the shelter of his uncle. But after his uncle died, right, he was also under scrutiny. Okay, so somehow he immigrated. An opportunity came because of which he could immigrate to Medina. In Medina, he had some security from some of the tribes. Okay, so in Medina, he took different roles. His life changed. He was not in Makkah, he was only a preacher, isn't it? Preacher of that new faith, right, that he was advocating. But in Medina, his role expanded. It changed. He was not only a preacher, but he was also a judge. He was also a warrior. He was also, so he took the role of different forms. All right. Now in Medina, life was a struggle for him. See, in Medina again, since they are from Makkah, they are known as Muhajirins, right? So Medinas call them as Muhajirins, and the Muhajirins were kind of does not enjoy the same privileges and the status. All right. So okay. So in the long run, things change a little bit, and the Muhammad was not only a preacher but a warrior, in a sense, like for their survival. Now he had to resort with his disciples. He had to resort to looting and robbing the rich caravans. Accordingly, they were living their lives, and it is in Medina that he formed a community of faith. Okay, his community of faith, whom he called as Ummah, a community, a community of Islam, and the faith came to be known as Muslims later on. Okay, so in Medina period, he also imposed the which we know as 5 pillars. At that time in Medina, it was only 3. That is the daily prayer that we know 5 times, and then giving of alms and the fast of Ramadan. That means 1 month Ramadan now it's going on, isn't it? So these 3 duties were being imposed in Medina to his ummah, that is the community, right? That means in Medina now, quite a huge community he was forming, religious community. Now, after this Medina, quite a lot of battles, small battles with the caravans were being he has fought quite a lot of battles by that time. And then somehow after he gained his popularity, he went back to Makkah. Somehow opportunity came, he went to Makkah, and in Makkah, he again brought up this religion, his faith as a Muslim community. And slowly in Makkah, all those what you call practices, worship and rituals and practices in Kaaba were being destroyed, and only that Abraham, the black stone, which is considered to be holy, was being left. And that's how actually his religion of Islam, his religion came to be known as Islam, and the community came to be known as Muslims, right? And that's how actually he died as a preacher, as a warrior, as a judge. So whenever problem is these differences among the family, among the community comes, they used to bring the problem to him, and he used to solve it, right? So all those, his actions, his sayings, all those comprises the hadith. Okay, so in Islamic foundation, the 4 foundations, among the 4 foundations are the Quran, the Hadith, the Ijma, and the Qiyas. Okay, so Quran, you know very well now what Quran is. About the verses and chapters, you go through the notes. And Hadith, as I am saying, when he was in Medina, his role expanded, isn't it? As a judge, they have to encounter different life situations, different struggles, different problems, all right? Social problems, clan problems, then marital problems or family problems. So many different problems arose. Now, he being the considered as kind of a prophet and a teacher, now these people bring all those problems to him, and that is how he used to say something, or he used to solve the problems. So all his actions and the sayings, all right, all his actions and the sayings comprises the hadith. Now it took a long time, it took a long time for the people, Islamic scholars to canonize the hadith. It went through a lot of scrutiny, and the hadith was canonized. Okay, so it seems among the it is basically, during that time also, Arabian culture, it was never a written documented culture. It was they all practiced oral culture, oral tradition, so hadiths were also orally memorized in the minds of his followers. And among those followers, his wife, one of his wife, Aisha, that is Abu Bakr's daughter, was considered, her hadith was also considered very, very authentic and genuine. And it seems she has hundreds of hadiths committed to her memory. So therefore, in the first, second, in fact, in the 3rd generations only, when the schools, the first generation, the first generation, his first disciples, that is the first generation, isn't it? So his first disciples slowly were dying. Then it is already transmitted to the 2nd generations, all right? But then without the prophet, without the first generations, the 2nd generations, they felt that it is important, it is very, very important for them to write it down, to pen it down. And by that time, several madhabs were being formed. Madhabs means schools were being formed, all right? Schools, Islamic schools of thought were being formed. And these madhabs, the students, the scholars of this madhab took the initiative of collecting the hadiths, all right? So it seems they used to go journey through far off places and trying to find out the people, and write down. So quite a lot of hadiths were also rejected, and the authenticity, how to find the authenticity of the hadiths were also being written down. And there are particular sets of criteria which every hadith, every saying had to follow, and only when it fulfills the criteria, then only those sayings of the Prophet will be considered as genuine. All right. So there are certain criteria that hadith should follow, and through all this painstaking journey, at last the hadith was canonized. But whatever it is, in one sentence, if we say hadith is nothing but a tradition. Tradition, that means sayings and the action of the Prophet Muhammad in dealing with things, okay? And as such, the hadith was canonized. Now, the third and the fourth, okay? The third and the fourth foundations are the ijma and the qiyas. Ijma is nothing but the unanimous consensus of the jurist or mujtahidin, opinion, or at the earliest it was known as the elders of particular clans, okay? Elders of different clans. The unanimous decision, like for example, there was a point of time where the first ijma was taken into consideration. When Prophet Muhammad died, okay? When Prophet Muhammad died, without naming his successor, right? Without naming his successor, there was a problem who will lead the community, okay? So in Medina, what happens? They are known as Muhajirins, and since Prophet Muhammad was from a Quraysh tribe, the Quraysh tribe wanted to have someone from the Quraysh tribe only, right? And at the same time, there were some people who opted for Abu Bakr because he was a very close friend and the first disciple of Prophet Muhammad. All right, so there was a dissension in between two, but not very differences in opinion. Let me put it in a milder way. There was differences in opinion. So therefore, in such circumstances, ultimately it was decided that let us take a unanimous consensus of who would be the next leader. Okay, so ultimately, unanimously, they have chosen Abu Bakr to be the next caliph, okay, leader or caliph. So Abu Bakr. So that was the first time where the general consensus or unanimous consensus of the clan was taken, and that became the ijma. And till today, this ijma, when there is a particular circumstance or condition or situation, the ulama can also make a decision basing on the general agreement among the ulamas, among the jurists. Okay. Now, qiyas is about analogy or analogical deduction derived from a particular verse, from the Quran or Hadith or whatever, right? In the Quran, it says so and so. In the Hadith, like for example, now in the Quran, it's written as "Thy Lord has decreed kindness to parents." That means every children should show kindness and love to their parents. All right. Now, for example, after a condition came where the child has thrown the parents out of the house after taking the property. Right. So those circumstances are there. Now, such kind of circumstances did not arise during Prophet Muhammad's time, or even after the first, even during the first generations. So Prophet Muhammad wrote nothing. What should be the penalty for the person who has done such kind of act? Right? So it is a general, and taken up and will be penalized based on what is written in the Quran. Like kindness to parents is what the Quran says, and we should abide. But the child has thrown the parents out, that means he has defied the teaching of Quran, right? So therefore, it is an analogical deduction that therefore it is wrong. The Quran, so he should be penalized. Now, how it should be penalized? It depends upon the jurist. All right, no? So that kind of analogical deduction is called qiyas. Okay, so these are the 4 foundations of Islam, which is very, very important. And these 4 foundations of Islam governs the whole daily activities of a Muslim, of a Muslim individual, no, or every Muslim, as an individual as well as a society. All right. Okay. Then 5 obligatory practices of Islamic faith. 5 obligatory practices of Islamic faith is the 5 pillars of Islam. All right. So 5 pillars of Islam are very easy, isn't it? If you are lucky, it will come straight. Explain the 5 pillars of Islam. So you just have to write as it is. So it is basically confession of the Islamic creed, that is kalima. So every person, if he or she is willing to be a Muslim, he has to say this confession or Islamic creed, which says that I find that there is no other God but Allah, and Muhammad is his apostle, which a person has to utter before baptism or any other baptism, right? Then only a person is included in the community. Next is a day, which we all know. But in the desert land, so every Muslims, before he or she says their prayer, they have to wash their hands, feet, and face. And in the desert land, water is a scarcity, so therefore they use sand, which is known as tayammum. So tayammum, that is purification of sand or earth. Now on Friday, khutbah will be read. That means a sermon will be preached by the imam. So that all this you are experiencing, and you can see, I think. The third is swan or fasting. That means this month of Ramadan, Ramzan, which is also known as swan or Ramadan or Ramzan. In various terms it is known. So and after the Ramadan comes the Idul Fitr. And fasting means not just simply fasting. They have certain timing at what time they should eat, what time they should not eat, and not only eating, even while fasting, your mouth should be clean. Not even a little bit of anything should be residing in your mouth. So those kind of strict rules, I think they follow. The next is zakat, that is alms giving. Now alms giving is an obligatory duty of every Muslims, and at the same time this zakat cannot be used for certain purposes, like for example building of mosque to clear the debts of their parents or to clear the debts of their grandparents or children. You cannot use zakat. Okay, but you can use zakat for those people who are not able to afford to go to. So there are certain places where you cannot use the zakat. Then last is Hajj. Hajj means pilgrimage to the religious place, that is Makkah. Now for the Muslims, at least once a lifetime, in your lifetime, you should visit the pilgrimage. So when they go to pilgrimage, that means when they visit the Kaaba, they have to go through a lot of rites and rituals, you know, and even their dress codes, these are different, and that I think you can go through it, right? And 6 believes in. Now, the theological principles, I will skip that. It is very much similar with our Christian understanding, but rather there's a little extra that is added, but it won't be difficult, okay? I will skip that, and rather let me switch on to the sect of Muslims. The Shias, Sunnis, and the Sufis. Yes, the Sunnis. The Sunnis you will find a lot even in India. And then 80% of the total Muslim population in the world are Sunnis. That means they are the majorities. Few are the Shias. Now, who are these Shias actually? The Shias are the ones who strongly followed the fourth caliph. That is Ali. All right. So the Islamic community were led by some caliphs, led by Abu Bakr. I think it is not included in your syllabus. Yes, it is not included in your syllabus. That is the reason I have omitted it. But so see, during Prophet Muhammad, he did not. I think he did not have time to expand his religion, but he was more into consolidation of his faith in his own hometown, right? In his own hometown, he was trying his best to consolidate and to organize this new faith that he was propagating. Now, after Prophet Muhammad, by that time, the Islamic, the religion that Prophet Muhammad was propagating, the religion began to have its own identity. It was settled, it was organized, a belief system was formed, a community was formed, right? So beginning from Abu Bakr, the first caliph, beginning from Abu Bakr, what happens? They begin to expand their religion, okay? Not only the religion, but expand in territory too. So throughout this caliphate, you will see them expanding to Byzantine, Constantinople, then Egypt, till Africa. And slowly it even entered India with the help of the Turks, all right? So the whole process of expansion, by hook or crook, with the whole concept of this jihad for the sake of Allah, they begin to annex, they begin to extend their territory, and in the process of expanding the territory, they made Islam as the state religion wherever they went. All right, now, so that's how Islam was expanding like a wildfire all over the world. All right. Now, in the process of caliph, choosing of caliphs, so one caliph, after Abu Bakr, Omar came up, after Omar, so in the process of choosing a caliph, there were lots of conspiracies towards the end. There were lots of conspiracies and dissension. Civil war also broke up among themselves, okay, in choosing who should be the leader of the community. Okay, so Ali was one caliph who was being selected in the midst of severe dissension and civil war. Okay, but Ali was murdered, and not only Ali, even his children were kind of butchered or murdered very brutally by the rival groups. So all those followers of Ali till date, you know, they visit Karbala, you know, Karbala. That is a one particular place as a pilgrimage, and that is the place where Ali and his children were being brutally, his children were being brutally murdered. You know, so that also is a part of their pilgrimage, and those followers of Ali came to be known as the Shias. Okay, so the Shias and the Sunnis, they have their own religious differences. You know, belief systems are a little bit different from one another, even if they are from the Muslim community. Okay, even their own celebrations, you know, are a little bit different. Like what do you call? You know, the Shias, you know, the Sunnis do not do much of that. What is that particular day when they hit themselves and, you know, it becomes quite bloody? I forgot that festival name. So that is
Muharram, is it?
Muharram.
Muharram. Yes, thank you. Yes, Muharram. So it is, you usually see the Shias strongly following, but Sunnis don't do those. So there are quite a lot of differences among these two. All right, even the scripture also, you know, the 6 canonical hadith are considered to be authentic, you know, by the Sunnis. Okay, and but the Shias do not accept all these 6 canonical. They have their own canonizations, and they have their own English. So in that way, different from the rest of the sect. Okay, the Sufis are more devotional in nature and very, very mystical, very much different from the Sunnis as well as Shias, right? So this, when the Arabs entered India, although for business purpose, slowly their ambitions also changed, and slowly the Muslims, they ruled India for many years, isn't it? Till the end, the ending was done by the Mughals. Now, during I think 10th or 11th century, right? Somewhere in 10th, 11th century, the Sufis also entered India, you know, and the Sufis, along with the Bhakti saints, you know, during that time, Ramanuja, Sankara were quite popular, and slowly in sorry, not 1500, sorry, up to 1500, yeah, 1200s, I think, 1200s, the Bhakti movements were mushrooming in different parts of India. Along with the Bhakti saints, Hindu Bhakti saints, these Sufi saints also has a tremendous impact on the Indian society in order to practice not only in Hinduism, but also among the Islamic community. These Sufis are very much liberal in their outlook and nature. All right. So like the Bhakti saints, the Sufi saints were also equally contributive in building the bridge between these two major communities during that time in India. Among the Muslims and the Hindus, we know from the very beginning the communal tension that was existing between these two communities. And the Hindu Bhakti saints and the Sufi saints were quite contributive in building the bridge between these two communities in India. All right. Now, these Sufi saints, their name itself, the name Sufi. Yeah, the term Sufi derives from the term Saf. Saf means mystic, or also very contrastingly, it also means wool. Now, therefore, how this term and in what way this term is used or coined, people has different theories. All right, the Sufis used to wear a kind of an woolen type of long robe, because of which some of the scholars says that they are known as Sufis. They are also, Suf also means mystic. Now these Sufis, they lived a mystical life. You know, they lived a mystical life. They spent time singing songs and they lived on alms. Right? If somebody gives, they will eat. Otherwise, they were completely on non-possession. Right? And because of this kind of correct, and so they believe in illumination or purity, you know, pure heart or purity, and because of which they were also known as Sufism. That is what some of the scholars hold. But whatever it is, this sect, you know, this sect came out as a dissatisfied group of people. Okay, they were dissatisfied with what? They were dissatisfied with the Quran and the Sunnah, Sunnah or Hadith. As a Sunnah or Hadith, this is interchangeably used. All right, so they were not very satisfied with the teachings of Quran and Sunnah as the only guide, not teachings actually, not teachings, sorry, but as the only guide to the divine revelation or divine truth. They could not accept that this is the only guide, right? What they so what they were, so they formulated that, you know, not only Quran and Sunnah, you know, kashaf, you know, kashaf or illumination or experience should also be the guide, you know, to discover the divine truth. Okay, they formulated another basis. They formulated another basis in order to discover the divine truth, and that is kasaf or illumination, which comes through experience. So when it comes to illumination, you can only experience. You just don't get it by reading and by reading the Quran or Hadith, but you experience that enlightenment. So they have given more importance to kashaf. So kashaf is basically the direct or the immediate knowledge of the divine truth, no, and which is something at the spiritual realm. Okay, it is not from a particular book, no, whether it is Quran or Sunnah. It is not from a particular book. It is not from the application of reason or logic, but it is solely through experience that a person is illuminated. Okay, so this kind of experience of illumination is given importance by the Sufis. All right, so therefore the Sufis gave more importance to the regulation of the inner life, you know, inner experience, inner life or soul, you know. So that is where they have given importance, and therefore their nature is very, very mystical. Okay, so it is non-possession and you know, living a life of devotion, singing, committing yourself to God, you know. So that is the basic nature of the Sufis. All right, I think that that should suffice. I think that should suffice. Is that okay?
Ma'am,
So
there
we
is a doubt. Should we ask now or at the end of the class?
Yes, you can ask up to Islam.
Okay, ma'am, they have a very strong laws against what they call blasphemy, like which is so how would that come from where? What is the origin? Is it given in the Prophet's teaching? Is it, I mean, how did they interpret and get such a law, for one doubt? And second is from the life of the Prophet. One sees that his wives and all were convinced. I mean, the women had a considerable role at that time. I think his first wife was a couple of years older than him also, and yet even she was financially also very strong. And I think she also had a very strong supportive power in his teaching and his spread, his growth as a prophet. At what stage did this the position of women get so relegated as it is seen now?
Yes. See, the word blasphemy, I think I forgot the particular word for blasphemy as such, the Arabic term. Otherwise, the Islamic community is a very rigid monotheistic community, right? Very, very rigid, you know, like in one way very similar with Christianity. So how it originated, or how it this one see, it is, I may not be able to identify the scripture portion where it is mentioned and the particular term that has been used, but when it is comes to saying anything against the Quran, right? Anything against Quran is considered to be blasphemy. Anything against Allah is considered to be blasphemy, and this kind of concept is very much inherited even in Christianity also, right? Especially the Jewish culture, all right? But of course, when it comes to excommunication, that is different, no? Excommunication is different. They have so many, and excommunication, I will say that it is not same with all the countries. You know, the Islam seems to have evolved in different way, in different cultural condition. You know, the Islamic women in India and Islamic women in Arabs, you know, are so different from one another, and the privileges and they enjoy, their outlooks, their thinking are also quite different in general or in particular too, right? So when it comes to excommunication also, it is not same in all the Islamic countries. In one way, the third world Muslim countries are more orthodox and conservative than the rest of the other world, I see. Like, for example, like in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, these are more conservative, and you will see that in every small petty things you see women being, especially women being excommunicated. Just a very interesting and a very funny. I find it very funny, but for them it is very serious. Like Shania Mirza, when she was playing tennis, when she was wearing the short skirt, she was being excommunicated just because she was wearing a short skirt by the Indian ulmas. So it depends upon the ulmas also, you know, because they only have the right to give that kind of verdict, you know, to a certain people for certain reasons. So, and regarding women, yes, see, before Prophet Muhammad, you know, before Prophet Muhammad, the condition of women among the Arabians were very, very pathetic, you know, and women were always considered as a second-class citizen, and they never had any rights, and the whole picture, I think you can also get it from our own Bible when we look at the social and the religious condition, you know, or state of women in the Jewish context, I think world also, and female infanticides were also very, very common in the Arabs. As we have mentioned, Khadija was older than him, number one. At the same time, she was an independent woman. In fact, Prophet Muhammad had to depend on Khadija for economic stability, right? So in that way, Prophet Muhammad did not seem to have any problem, with such kind of what do you call, condition, Quranic verses, which I do not have here. If you want, I can send it to you next time. That women, and even in Quran there are quite a lot of verses where he mentions respect towards mother, wife, and a girl, child, against female infanticide, about equality of men and women in the sight of Allah. There are verses in Quran. At the same time, but so Aisha also, his wife, one of his wife, also kind of a liberated woman, and she was not bounded, but she was free to learn the sayings and to commit it to the memory, because it was a oral tradition, right? So in that way, she was a liberated woman, and her hadith was also highly esteemed. Okay, so yes, but there are also quite a lot demeaning verses, which let me not put it demeaning verses, but there are verses which is quite negative and which has been interpreted very literally by the conservative Muslims. Like, for example, like there are some verses where it says that if you die for the sake of Allah, jihad, like you will be blessed with some hundreds of concubines in heaven, virgin women in heaven. Then women have to cover their head, and they should cover their chest. So these are some of the verses that is taken very literally and has been taken as a tool to demean the status of the women among the Islamic community. So see, during the time of Makkah, see, women, the whole concept of covering their chests was developed so that women, can be differentiated between the other women and the Muslim women whom he has highly regarded as chaste and morally and moral, chaste and moral. So therefore, in order to identify this Muslim women, as chaste, that they cannot be mixed, so what happens? This covering of their chest with a kind of a cloth was being instituted. However, in the due course of time, these were as a tools in order to subjugate the women. And today, yes, especially in the third world countries, the Muslim women, and their position is very, very demeaning and very oppressive. The triple talaq, that which in India itself is becoming a burning issue, although it is so much politically tainted. So there are, of course, a lot of issues relating to it. But of course, there is no such particular time or reason why this has created in this manner. But with the time, and the conditions, cultural conditions, all these got evolved in a worst manner. Okay. Shall we pick up Sikhism, or you want to take a break? 2 minutes.
Yes.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Yes, sir.
2 minutes. Yeah, 2-minute break. You can go relax and come back. I'll be back in
ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಯಹೂದ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ഉറപ്പായ അത്ര ഉറപ്പായ
Mr. Sujata, please mute your mic.
What happened, Amo? Oh.
No, we just took a break for 2 minutes.
Oh, break, nah? Okay.
Yes, the 2 minutes is done. We took a break
All
at
right, all right.
4:20.
I thought some network problem, huh?
No. We
It's
just
okay,
did-
it's okay. Yeah, you need a break, huh? You need
Yeah.
a break.
It's quite a lengthy subject, actually. So we are just trying to cover up at the surface level. Okay. The afternoon half, I think very few, quite a lot of them has not joined. I think only 47 students are there. Okay, any more questions? Otherwise, we have only one more topic, that is Sikhism, and the primal and the Dalit religion we will pick up. And after that, if you have any discussions on the topic, as well as from section 8, then we can discuss. Okay, quickly we will pick up
Ma'am.
Sikhism. Yes.
Ma'am, I got the book which topic is Messages of Religion, and there is no title of Dalit religion.
Okay.
So could you please suggest me the book, because I haven't this topic in my book, Primal
Okay.
and Dalit religion.
Okay, we will try to cover a little bit, and then let's see. If possible, I'll send you some notes. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Otherwise,
Yep.
Otherwise there are in your syllabus couple of books. If you see in the bibliography,
Okay.
if you look at the bibliography, you can see, I think some of the books are being suggested. Like by Murli Manohar, Dalit and their religion, or Dalit and religion. So these are 2007 and 2009 publications. I think you will readily get it. I do not know whether you will get it under Google Books. So if you get hold of these books, you can always go through it. Okay. But as per your syllabus, since you are not doing a detailed study on the Dalit religion, you are just doing a surface level, that is just the meaning or definition of Dalit religion and then few characteristic of Dalit religion, that I think can be covered up. If you are doing the and very in-depth study, then I think you will need a couple of books for that.
Like in our syllabus, they only an overview on the religions.
Yes, it's an overview of or outlines of the religion, and especially primal and Dalit religion is just the definition and some characteristic. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, one more doubt.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you just tell something about the Shariat law and why is that is again a area which is very confrontational as far as the it's a little difficult to understand. So can you just illuminate us a little more about the law and how has
Yes, Sharia, the Islamic law, that is a personal, that is their own personal law. Like we tribals have our own customary law. This is a religious law which they follow, right? And this is the binding as well as the guiding, laws that Muslim as a community and as an individual has to live daily. All right. So this has a very important role or place in a Muslim life, or in a Muslim this one community. So it is a religious law, and every Muslim, in fact, follow it. Many of the Islamic countries also the laws are being made basing on the Sharia. Not exactly the same, but then a little bit at least in line. And some of the Muslim reformers like Muhammad Iqbal that the government should be ruled basing on Sharia. So that much of importance Sharia has. Now, particularly in India, among the Muslim community, there are times when Sharia also overrules our apex court, right? So there was a huge debate once upon a time on the Sharia, and it is vast. At the same time, it's a little complicated also. But however, in Sharia, proposers see there are certain laws which are obligatory, and there are certain laws which are not obligatory. So there those injunctions you will find in Sharia. And in Sharia, interestingly again, in Sharia, from the smallest thing to the biggest, like jury's judgment, everything is covered up from personal behaviors, how a Muslim individual should behave as a woman, as a man, as a child, civil laws, civil laws and criminal laws, all those laws are being covered in Sharia. So it is a vast subject indeed. Okay, it is a very, very vast subject indeed. And all the spiritual aspect, mental aspect, physical aspect, every aspect of a Muslim life is encompassed, or the Sharia encompasses. So you can imagine, how vast it is and how complicated it could be also, all right? Then,
ma'am,
I have just mentioned.
Who has written the law then?
See, Islamic laws are being
the Shariat law. The Shariat law
or written down. Yes, written down by the jurist. Okay, Islamic jurist. The Islamic jurists are the ones who are the law keepers, isn't it? Are the law keepers. And since the first dissension, that means since the Prophet Muhammad, after Prophet Muhammad, when the caliphate was formed and the caliph was chosen, since that time, the elders of various clans were playing the role of a jurist. Before them, it was the Prophet Muhammad who played the role of a jurist, right? But after him, some elders, played the role of a jurist and selected the caliphate, right? Select the caliph. Now Khalid has that immense role, and slowly what happens, all these laws were being written down by certain Islamic jurists when the community of jurists were formed, and these jurists have written down or has canonized all these laws, and therefore like I may not be able, some of the Islamic jurists who were quite popular, since I am not using my computer, it is quite difficult to, just a minute, whether I will see whether I have mentioned it somewhere or not. Or whatever it is, whatever it is, this Islamic Sharia is very much, these laws were being formed very much in line with all the four foundations of Islam. Okay, that means the four foundations, that is the Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, and Qiyas. Now, Quran, okay, fine, you understood. Sunnah, you understood, okay. Its authentication it meets the criteria, and it's authenticated that it is Prophet Muhammad's sayings and the doings. Okay, but when it comes to Ijma and the Qiyas, right, it is the elders or the jurists whom they call as ulama, is it not? It is the ulmas who gives the verdict, right? Who comes to a general consensus, who comes to an analogical deductions or analogical reasoning, right? And gives the penalty. So it is these jurists, jurists who considers all these, and then ultimately this law was being canonized. Okay, and therefore it encompasses every aspect of a Muslim behaviors, food habits, how to do, how not to do. So like, for example, Hindu laws, Hindu law book, some of the people trace it back to Manusmriti, isn't it? Right? But in the process, it has been canonized, and then we have that Hindu law book. But however, maybe because India is a Hindu, mystically dominated by Hindus, it doesn't clash, unlike the Muslims. But for the Muslims, many a times there are occasions where people do not go to the court, rather they go to the Islamic jurists, and the jurists, basing on the Sharia, give their own verdicts. But yeah, how it originated, I may not be able to give you the exact information. Let me see. Let me do it. Anyway, thank you so much for giving me an area where I need to give more emphasis and find out. Is there any other questions?
One more doubt. The caste system traces its way back to the Vedic periods, but and the Manusmriti is, I think, much later in, I think, around 100 in the Christian era, if I am not mistaken. So
Yes.
and yet when you are, I mean that it is the Manusmriti, I understand, which is taken as the main core for the, how is I mean, can you just elucidate on these two?
Come again, please. On these two, which two?
The Manusmriti is a later document, I think around 100, around the 100 years.
No, after 500 BCE, documented. 500 BCE. That is what generally the scholars accept, but then the dates can differ a little bit here and there. But generally, it is accepted as 500 BCE.
So, is this caste system, is it like merely based on the tenets of the Manusmriti, or is it which was, I mean, we understand it to be an outgrowth of the occupations, definitely, but does it have its foundation in that social structure, or is it a philosophical foundation? Like, is the
No.
foundation of philosophy of Manu, or is it outgrowth of? I mean, there seems to be a contradiction for me. I don't understand the.
Yeah, no. Manusmriti is never a philosophy. Okay, Manusmriti is never a philosophy. It is just a law that Manu seems to have brought down for humanity to follow. Okay, so and the caste system never had a foundation on Manusmriti as such. Okay, so caste system, in fact, it evolved, you know, as I have mentioned in the morning, in the mid-Vedic period. In the mid-Vedic period, it took a very distinctive form, and not only distinctive form, even the whole idea of purity and pollution was also attached to the caste system. Purity, in a sense, the twice-born people. The twice-born people are the higher caste, the Brahmins, you know, and some Kshatriyas. They are the pure people, purity, right? And then the rest of them are the impure, you know. So, and the untouchables, who doesn't even belong to the caste system. So all these were where it is slowly evolved with the time, you know, and it, yes.
And was at that time, was it just in practice or was it canonized? I mean, it might have existed in practice at the social level, but was it canonized or was it made part of the structural religion in Manusmriti? That might be the question, it seems.
Yes, so in Manusmriti, being the role, you know, see, caste system, even before Manusmriti, you know, even before Manusmriti, you will find also the elements in the Bhagavad Gita also. You will feel as canonized. It is not canonized since it is not exactly a scripture, but it is a social system which penetrated into the society, right? Which penetrated into the society. It became a social system, right? So slowly as the time passed, Manusmriti, being the lawgiver as such, you know, being, so what is the duty of a Shudra? What is the duty of, and how it should be done and how they should live? All these were being written down in the law form. And even you will find quite a lot of verses regarding women also in Manusmriti, how a woman should behave and how a woman should treat their husbands, and the status of husband for a woman life. You know, there are many verses which is very demeaning when it comes to women, you know, very demeaning, you know. And there are also some verses in Manusmriti which is so much in contrast to what it says about women. You know, on one side it appears the motherhood, women should be respected and all those, and on the other side again there are verses where it says like, well, even if the husband is, you know, ill treats, a woman should always consider the husband as a kind of serve the husband as Deva, or what you call God. No, so there are so many contrasting aspects. And likewise regarding caste, no, that is what regarding caste, regarding all these other aspects are also included. So so caste system is not a text that should be canonized, but it is a social system which with the time it evolved and it penetrated into the minds and hearts and lives of the people, and slowly it took an evil turn. And I would rather say that if the Bhakti movement would not have come into existence with its voicing out against all these social evils, I think India women as well as Indian caste, people, lower caste people, the scenario would have been brought tremendous changes, but they have put a break to this, evolving in a very worst manner, right? So they seems to have put a break into all these evil practices. Okay. We are running out of time. I think we will just quickly pick up Sikhism and then primal and the Dalit religion. Okay, so maybe I'll just stop sharing. See, when it comes to Sikhism also, okay. Rise, development of Sikhism or socio-religious political background of the 15th and the 16th century Punjab, and under what circumstances Sikhism has come up. Now we all know, 15th and 16th century Punjab or 16th century context of India was something like, okay. So it is no different, communal tensions was very much, highlighted during that time between Hindus and the Muslims. At the same time, ritualism, polytheism, caste system, idolatry, all these were at its peak, right? So when I say that, I think you are already having a clear-cut picture of that. So against all this, Guru Nanak came up with his teachings, as an alternative to all this. So as an alternative, Guru Nanak was born in a religious situation where Indians have experienced by that time multiple religions, like Hinduism, then Sikhism and Jainism already there. Then Muslims were gaining ground, and during this, of course, Aurangzeb was later on, not exactly Guru Nanak, but Aurangzeb, we all know how Aurangzeb has enforced, he was a one religious fanatic, isn't it? So with his own fanaticism, how he wanted India to make an Islamic state. So in this whole process, what happens, only among the Mughals also, it was hardly Babur, Akbar, and Shah Jahan, Jahangir, they were kind of liberal in their thoughts, and rest of them were quite conservative, and especially like Aurangzeb. So in this aggravated the communal feelings between these two religious community. And on the other side, the Sufis have also entered India with its own liberal viewpoint, where equality of all human beings was upholded. And on the other side again, the Bhakti saints were also gaining ground in different parts of India. Okay, the Muslims with its monotheistic teachings were also gaining ground, we all know. So in the midst of this religious conflict and introduced with various religious teaching, Guru Nanak was born and brought up, and he could also see, being a Hindu, he could also see the so many social evils that was being practiced in the name of religion. So Guru Nanak, in the beginning, being influenced, he was also kind of influenced by the monotheism, not so much of of rigidity, because he was also against this rigid monotheism practiced by the Muslims, but he was also greatly impressed by the monotheism of Christianity as well as the Muslims against the idolatry and polytheism. At the same time, he was also greatly influenced by the mystical teachings of the Sufis and the Bhakti saints. So with all these influences and the conditioning of his mind and the spiritual experiences, Guru Nanak came out in order to renovate. It's more like bringing a change in this, within the Hinduism only, but in the due course of time, you know, it took a completely different religious sect, and the community came to be known as Sikh community. All right, and beginning with Guru Nanak, there were 10 gurus, and the last guru was Guru Gobind Singh. And all these 10 gurus have contributed a lot, one way or another, especially some in canonizing the scripture, you know, in canonizing the scripture. Some of them in reorganizing the Sikh community, and some of them, you know, like Guru Gobind Singh, they were quite instrumental in defending their religion against the Muslim fanatics and the persecution, because during this Guru Nanak, Guru Gobind Singh especially, you know, Aurangzeb was really working hard on persecuting the Hindus, and the Sikh community, being a Hindu bhai, like they were always against these Muslims. And in that way, the Sikh community also has faced a lot of persecution under the Mughal rule. So in this way, actually the whole Sikh community was consolidated, and all these gurus, the 10 gurus, their contributions I have given in the notes. Yeah, I have given in the notes, and just a little more highlight I have given on Guru Gobind Singh, because it was Guru Gobind Singh who has introduced these 5 Ks and introduced the Sikh as a community, you know, with 5 Ks, that is Kesh, Kanga, Kara, Kacha, Kripan, and Kripan. All these 5 Ks should be there in a Sikh. You know, it should be there in their bodies as a Khalsa. You know, he was the one who introduced Khalsa as a defender of the Sikh community, especially against the Muslim persecution. So therefore, a little more is added up on Guru Gobind Singh of his contributions, right? And yes, and Guru Nanak, which I have already mentioned in the first this one, so I have not mentioned it here. Yeah, like Guru Angad, he popularized the Gurmukhi script, because the Guru Granth Sahib was written in the Gurmukhi script, which was not known to all the Punjabi people. Only few priestly castes had an idea about, can read the Gurmukhi script. And this, the Guru Granth Sahib was written in Gurmukhi script, and therefore many of the Sikh community could not read the scripture. All right, and this created a lot of problem in the long run, right? Because after the last guru, there was nobody to organize and to lead the Sikh community. So therefore, what happens? Because after Guru Gobind Singh strongly said that hereafter there will be no gurus to lead them, but the scripture, Guru Granth Sahib, will be the one to lead you all. And you know, so that is what Guru Gobind Singh you know, declared. And therefore, after reading Guru Granth Sahib, you will always see in Gurudwara, and that became the guiding principle. And slowly great leaders, great kings were born, like Ranjit Singh and all those. They became both the spiritual as well as more political leaders of the community. But as the days passed, slowly what happened, the Sikh also lost their identity in the process because of lots of infiltration of the Hindu practices and the Hindu priest, whom who were known as Udasis, especially during the British government time. So there were lots of issues, the Sikh were struggling for identity, and in the process, movements took place, like Singh Sabha movement and Gurudwara movement. These movements were initiated in order to reform the Sikh community, or not only reform, but bring back the Sikh community to its original nature or original teaching. So that was in the later years, the Sikh community had to go through all those struggles. Okay. Any question? From this, usually I see the socio-political condition under what circumstances Sikhism was born, originated and developed, and also the contributions of all the 10 gurus, with special reference to maybe Guru Gobind Singh or Guru Nanak or Guru, I think, Amar Das, the one who, just 1 minute, is it hard cooking? Guru Arjun, who compiled the Adi Granth, who compiled the Adi Granth. So Guru Arjun or Guru Gobind Singh or Guru Nanak, their contributions are usually they ask. Okay, so I think that's all from Sikhism, I think. Life and teaching of Guru Nanak, Guru traditions, outline of the 9 Gurus, Guru Granth Sahib, Sikh belief and festivals and sects. Shall we pick up primal religion? Only a few more minutes left. Primal and Dalit religion. My notice friends will know better than me, in fact, about the primal religion and what it is. So,
Ma'am, please start.
is it okay? Okay. A very short note. Okay, I will on primal, what primal religion is. Now, when it comes to primal religion, it is basically a religion which is followed or practiced by the indigenous people. And primal religion, they do not have a scripture. Basically, this group of community do not have a written scripture or written teachings. It was basically oral tradition. And from in the past, what happens is, when it comes to literacy, written documents were considered to be literate, and those oral traditions were always ignored, because of which the primal religious, the name, primal, has undergone a lot of transition, and ultimately the term has undergone a lot of transition, and ultimately, yes, ultimately the term primal is being coined. Now it is so these are the group of people, or say tribal people, who followed oral traditions and do not have written scripture or written traditions. It has been passed down verbally from generations to generations, although since it is an oral tradition, slowly it is also
not clear.
Pardon?
Matter is not clear on the screen. Kindly enlarge it.
Okay. Where is this? I'll zoom it. You cannot see, huh? This is in PDF file. That is the reason I'm not able to enlarge
You
it.
can use control plus, control along with plus, so it will.
Control and S.
Control and plus sign.
Okay.
Among first share the screen. First you share the screen.
Am I not sharing the screen?
No,
It's not visible.
No, it's not. We can't see the sharing screen. First you share the screen. Yes.
Okay. No,
Yes,
okay.
yes, it is coming now. We can
Control.
share it. Then if you want to increase,
Next to the URL there is a plus sign, so that will increase the.
Now it is visible.
Is it okay now?
It is okay now.
yeah, we can
Now.
see. We can see. Yes, yes. Good, good. Continue.
Okay. All right. So the primal, it is believed that primal religion is a religion of the illiterates because for a long time, right, this oral tradition was never recognized. Literate, the scale for literacy is the written documentation or written script. Those who have a written script were considered to be literate, and therefore what happens, the name, to this group of people, several names were being coined, right? But however, that is one of the characteristic of the primal religious community. Okay, and primal, in a sense, like the indigenous or the first basic, all right, the basic form of religious practice. Okay, that is what we can understand from the term primal, right? So the indigenous people are what do you call, the religious tradition and the belief and the practices they followed are the primal, are the kind of the basic form of religious tradition. Okay, all right. So they have a very distinctive characteristic or features which the primal religious community, or in other words, like tribal religious community, follows. And interestingly, these tribal communities, you will find it all over the world, and there are certain distinctive characteristics which is quite similar with the rest of the other tribal community all over the world. Like, for example, the belief in mana or tabu, you will find among the Australian and the New Zealand indigenous people also, right? And so also among the other tribals in the other parts of India and this Northeast community. Okay. Now, when it comes to term this to the terms that has been given to the religious practices of these indigenous people, a lot of transition has gone through. That is as I have been mentioning, like the term animism. Animism was first used by some scholars in order to for the religious practices of this tribal community or of this particular indigenous community. Now, animism means comes from the word anima. Anima means breath of life or spirit. Now, these people, community people, believe in the existence of spirit, and therefore this, and at the same time, existence of spirit in various forms, in various this one. So therefore, what happens? Some of the scholars use the term animism. However, when it comes to animism, again, it looks very, very ancient, and it doesn't complete the whole practices, and it doesn't come in par with the tribal community in modern era. Because today the tribal, this indigenous community has come a long way, and they are also very much in par with modernity, and therefore this animism was being ignored, and the term primitive was also used. However, when we say primitive, it has a little bit of derogatory term. It limits, and it pushed the community as primitive, ancient, underdeveloped. All right, and that would be wrong to categorize them. So therefore, this primitive term was also ignored. So therefore, at last, the word tribal was also used. However, this tribal term was also used, especially by Wati Longchar, but this was also being criticized, saying that tribal religion is also considered as very ancient and primitive and backward and isolated indwellers of the forest and the hills. And therefore, this kind of definition is also very, very derogatory, and it doesn't come in line with today's context. Therefore, this term tribal was also kind of rejected. And at last, this term primal was being formed or was being coined to the practices of this community, indigenous community, which seems to be very much in par, and it gives a distinctive character. It doesn't signify any inferiority, or it doesn't have a derogatory implication, but it seems to show that their practices were the primal, they were the basic, they were the base of the religious traditions that we see all over the world, right? So in that way, this primal religion was given to the religious practices of these indigenous people. Some of the characteristics of this tribal primal religion community is their belief in magic, they believe in mana, they believe in supreme being or supernaturals, they believe in spirits, they believe in ancestor worship, they believe in totem or totem. Totem means some kind of an animal, zoomorphic, as we have discussed in the previous session, of the origin of a particular clan. So these are some of the belief of the primal religious community. Now coming to the Dalit religion. Now, who are the Dalits? I think many of you must be knowing by now. Okay, just 1 minute. Maybe I will take another 5 minutes.
No problem, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Dalits, who are the Dalits? Who are the Dalits? The Dalits are the community, a group of community or people who doesn't come even in the whole caste system or the whole Varna system, right?
Kindly enlarge the matter.
Oh, yes.
It's not visible.
you see complete setup?
Yes.
Just down there, plus minus is there. You can see. Yeah, from
Okay.
there you can do.
Now
Do it
it's
more.
okay. No?
Do some more plus.
More. It's okay, I think.
It's not.
Yeah. So Dalits are the community who doesn't belong to the caste system also, right? So they are out of the caste system. They are, for many years, they were being considered as untouchables, all right? Untouchables. And later on, they were identified as the Dalits. Now, when we say Dalits, they are, it connotes the people who are oppressed in socially, economically, politically, culturally, in every way. These Dalits are the oppressed community. They are the marginalized community. Marginalized by whom? By the mainstream people, all right? So the mainstream, because see, all these Dalits, although the Dalits do not consider themselves as Hindus, the Hindus always brings them under their fold, right? They have their own distinct culture. And this Dalits, if you look into the history, of course, we are running out of time, so maybe I will not be able to explain much. But anyway, just a view, see the Dalits, just keep in mind that these are the people who are the marginalized group of people in the Indian social system, all right? They do not belong even to the Indian, they are not at all a part of the caste system also. That means they are the Atishudras or Panchamas are what they are known, you know, so hence they are the outcast people, right? They are outcast people, they are untouchables. Although the word untouchable is being ruled out, and all thanks to Baba Ambedkar, being from the Mahar outcast community, he himself has gone through a lot of atrocities and oppression, you know. And when he became the Law Minister of India, he made it a point that the term untouchable should be completely erased, and whoever uses the term to identify a particular community, he or she will be penalized. You know, these are the things which he has put it in the Indian Constitution. However, when it comes to their social life and their status, you know, the attitudes towards them, it's still the same. You know, they still are marginalized, they are still are oppressed, and they hardly find any position or any privileges in the society in any aspects of their life. Now, this Dalit community, however, are very much close, whether it is Dalit or primary religious community. They are very close to the nature, and their religious practices, their community, their belief system are very much in line with the nature. All right, so they get inspirations from the nature, they live with the nature, you know, and their nature is always considered to be their sustaining source of sustenance, right? So therefore, their community also are very much a communitarian life, you know, just like the primal religious community, theirs is also a very communitarian life. Their life is full of drums, dances, you know, drinking, of course, is very much a part of their daily life. So these are some of the elements that you will find among the Dalit community, all right? So they also have certain nature worships, you know, trees, stones are the basic form of worship. They have their own gods and goddesses, as well as not much of difference between divine, you know, they don't make. God-human world relationship is very much closely attached to one another. These things I will give you in notes, all right, the characteristic of Dalit. Any questions? Maybe basing on the questions, we will discuss a little bit and then wind up.
Hello, madam.
See, it's a very vast subject, and it is very difficult to cover up every aspects of the syllabus, right? So we are just touching, and some of the like section 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Section 8 is an area where you should not omit, okay? And this one I don't have to give any notes or this one, but because as long as we all are attached to the news and we read papers and we are conscious about the issues that our India, our nation is facing, I think you will be very much aware about all this. And these are the areas basing on which the questions will be set for you, right? The reflective questions will be set for you. So therefore, these are the areas like casteism, patriarchy, classicism, then politicization of religion, communalism, religious fundamentalism, fundamental rights. These are the areas you should always keep your eyes and mind open, right? Any question? And then we will wind up.
Ma'am, suggest some books regarding this.
Since this is just an outline, what I see in the syllabus, the books that has been mentioned, you know, whichever books you are getting hold of, I think it is enough. There are also like outline of Hinduism. These are the very basic book that I think you can go through by Mahadevan, no? And then popular Hinduism, since I will be giving notes, not necessary for you. Then any one book from Dalit religion. Then for introductions of Buddhism and Jainism, I'll be giving you notes. I don't think it will be necessary for you to go through if it is just for exam preparations. All right, but if it is for your own knowledge, you can use any of the books. Right, and at the same time, these days in Google, you have got so many books. You know, if you download it, especially if you find out the PDF files, it's just that you need to see whether it is authentic or not. You know, a Christian writing about a Christian writer writing about Hinduism may not be very genuine, because when the Christian writer is interpreting it, he will be interpreting it from the Christian perspective, right? So if it is a Hindu, the writer also should be genuine enough to interpret their scriptures. So I think it is very necessary for you when you are taking Google sources to see the authentication, you know, of the writer or the contributor. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, John L. Bhavan's Women in Islam, then Islamic Law, Women and Islamic Law. I think it's better if you can go through some of those books. Otherwise, almost all the notes, topics, I'll give you the notes. So I don't think you will need much. And you go through the notes, and if there is any idea which doesn't suffice, then you can, yes.
Ma'am, can you please elaborate a little bit on the term patriarchy? Because in one way it is used technically, which means the father or the man is the head of the family and all those matters. The other is the tyranny which is experienced in the society. So, I mean, patriarchy in itself, I mean, do you consider is wrong, or the extremes of it is wrong? But and patriarchy in itself is a good thing.
Yes, see, patriarchy, see, if it is a radical feminist, you know, if I am a radical feminist will always say that we need to overthrow the whole patriarchy. Right, but as for me, if you are asking my opinion, as for me, I don't have any problem with patriarchy or matriarchy. Right, the whole problem is when it subjugates the other co-creation. Right, when it subjugates, that is the problem. Right, when it is taking an evil turn, you know, you become the head by subjugating the other. Why not you become the head, making the other person also equal co-partner? I don't think that should be a problem, but that is not happening in society, you know. But the radical feminists, but then why the radical feminists are also talking about the overthrowing of patriarchy is because, see, unless and until they overthrow that, there doesn't seem to be any changes, right? There doesn't seem to be any changes. So therefore, they are also being radical, you know. But if as a liberal, you know, feminist, I would see that I don't think there is any problem, you know. Whoever the head, there should be one head. Okay, fine. But then, yeah, it should not be on the basis of stumbling, you know, stamping the other, or demeaning other, or the subjugating the other, or suppressing the other. And that is what is happening in our society. All right, and that has happened, and all this seems to be, you know, all the scriptures, whether it is Christian, whether it is Bible, whether it is Vedas or Bhagavad Gita or whatever it is, all these scriptures are being used in order to validate, in order to validate the subjugation of the women. All right. So therefore, all these scriptures need to be reinterpreted from the feminist perspective, so that as God intended, when God created, even from Christian perspective, when God created without any intention of making one person high, another person low. No, He created every human being as equal, in His image, is it not? So it has to be reinterpreted. So also in the Hindus also, why always take the negative aspects? Why not we take those good elements, like from the Vedic text or from the mid-Vedic text, later Vedic text, the good elements which upholds and which emancipates, which can be a source of emancipation for women in the society.
Ma'am,
Okay.
script according to the Christian script, according to the Bible, isn't reasonable patriarchy the best solution?
No, I would not say that. Right. So for the reinterpretation, I need to go back to Genesis and the whole the New Testament, and then we take one more thing.
Not just the Genesis, but I mean throughout the scriptures, even
Yes.
we call them patriarchs, the fathers.
We
in
call
the- in
them
Genesis.
patriarchs. We call them patriarchs. Now, who wrote the Bible? It was written by men. It was written by men in a male society, in a male-dominated society, is it not? So these people who wrote are also writing from the man perspective, conditioned by the patriarchal society, male-dominated society. So patriarchy is nothing, but it is not just a mere phenomena, but it is a reality. It is a practical reality, which is practiced in the society. It is a social system. It's a family system, where male dominates and the female are considered as a secondary citizen. They are inferior, and therefore they have to be subjugated. And in the process, there are so many derogatory, not only scriptures, but early church fathers also, the philosophers, early philosophers also, their opinions on women are so derogatory that, that become a kind of a tradition, from inherited by the people from generation to generations. And in the process, women were being subjugated and subjugated. And
In the Bible,
women,
yeah.
Yes.
In the Bible, we see that patriarchy is there, but it does not give any inferiority to the women. I mean, patriarchy is there because some sort of.
No.
I mean, not as giving assigning inferiority to the women, or they are equal rights. I mean, women are equal, men are equal in the eyes of God. That is what is affirmed in the Bible. But for a system to for a system to go on, God has, I think, I mean, it's quite sure from the Bible, God has assigned the responsibility to the man to run the system. Not women are not exempted or accepted out of that, but as a rule, it is the role has been given to men. But women are not exempted. Women are not inferior. That's what I see from the Bible.
No. There are so many verses. There are so many contributions women have made, which is not mentioned in the Bible, and therefore it has to be explored. So that's why feminist hermeneutics is very, very necessary, right? In today's context now, right? Just simply saying that it is not said, no, because Bible, since time immemorial, Bible has been used as a tool in order to validify the position and the derogatory and the demeaning position of the women and women in the society as well as the family. Early church fathers have used Bible because Bible has given enough tools to subjugate the women. So therefore, it is high time for the people to reinterpret the Bible from the feminist perspective, and not only Bible, even the rest of the other scriptures also, right? Because this kind of system, finds its validification from the scripture only, right? But however, since we are not
do you suggest just simple reinterpretation, or do you mean to go beyond that and and insert, I mean, gender neutral words and
Yes,
and-
yes. For example, like reinterpretation, when we do reinterpretation, it is very necessary for us to know the socio-political, religious condition under which the writer has written.
but
Okay?
in that case,
Unless and until you
would-
know the
would-
background. Yes?
ma'am, would it not amount to changing the scriptures?
No, it will not amount. Why? How can you change the scripture? It is just
That-
a reinterpretation. And unless and until you see, many a times we read the scripture as it is, literally, but we do not bother to look into the condition under what circumstances Paul has written that. Like, for example, head covering in the head covering in the Bible, listen now, right? To the Korean women in Korean, Paul has written about head coverings. Women should be silent. Women should not utter anything in the church. They should just be a listener. They should always cover their heads. You know, these are the verses which has been used by the people in order to subjugate. So therefore, in decision-making body also, women are never included. Why Paul said that women should never? Because whatever comes up from the mouth of the women is always foolish things, right? Now let us see into the context. Now, why Paul has, if Paul was a male chauvinist, okay, if Paul was a male chauvinist, then you would have had the same attitude in the rest of the letters that he has written, right? Because he has covered up all the Asia Minor, Asian land, right? So he would have written, but no, he has written only in the Korean. In many of the scriptures, he has upholded women, and many of his disciples and strong helpers were women, is it not? And he has really commanded them and highly regarded them. Why? So we do not bother to why he did that, because in Korean, we know how the city of Corinth was, right? It was filled
Yes.
with licentiousness, prostitution, right? Licentiousness. So women or man with that character, imagine how it would be, right? So today also, in today's context also, you see some of the immoral women, what words they utter, it is always not moral or not right, is it not? It is always, something which is not of value, right? So therefore, in the such circumstances, in order to bring the church under a systematic functioning, of the church, what happens? Women were asked to cover their heads, to keep silent, because in the process of his missionary journey, many of the people, whether it is from the Jews, Gentiles, prostitutes, or good or bad, high caste, low caste, many of them were converting to Christianity. So in that kind of mixed context, how Paul will successfully preach the gospel and bring the people to Christ. So do not forget that Paul was very much pluralistic in his approach, be it women or be it people of other faiths. He was very, very pluralistic. He was very contextual. That is something which I really appreciate. And therefore, Paul's model of approaching people of other faiths and gender is something that we need to also observe and thoroughly consider. I think we will wind up. Thank you so much for the discussion, right? Yeah, and
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Very good evening and good night. And
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
yeah, stay safe.
Ma'am.
And,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Sasmit sir, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sasmit sir.
Please stop.
Sir, result is out. So you can just download the result and yes, and if you find any of the students' results are misspelled or anything, you have to communicate with Prasanna Kundu or Deputy. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, just pray for us, sir. Just pray for us. That's it. Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. Why you left the class? Why you left the class? Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. The madam just now she left the class, so no problem. It's okay. Okay. So I have just little few announcement for all of you. Like tomorrow also you are having class contextual theology, methodology, methodologies for the marginalized people and all. So please come to the class exactly at 10 o'clock. I will on the class like 5 to 10 minutes earlier. So I request all of you, please come to class and join tomorrow. And thank you so much once again to the teacher also, since teacher is not here. Okay, then see you tomorrow. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.